Hey, that's me. Hello, everyone. Welcome to Innovation Coffee, brought to you by ARM. My name is Robert Wolf. I hope my sound is on and working. Hopefully, you all hear me. Um, this is going to be a very exciting episode today. Today, we're going to be speaking about tinyML and the tinyML cookbook with Gian Marco, principal engineer from ARM. Very cool stuff. But before we dive right into that and before we welcome our guest, I would like to first talk about last week's episode, which didn't happen. Last week's episode was going to be a lot of fun. We were going to speak with the folks from IoTech. We were going to talk about everything Web3 blockchain related at the Bitcoin conference in Miami. That's where I was. I was in Miami, Florida for the for the Bitcoin conference. We had the folks lined up. We were ready to go. We were ready to go live. Seb was waiting here for us to go live, but the internet at the conference hall was just so bad. Instead of going live and doing a live stream, which I know would have been a lot of fun, instead we sat down there and we recorded a whole hour talking about Web3, all the cool stuff that's happening in that space. So I'm going to have to go into some post-production. We will get that recording edited out a little bit, and then we'll post that on our channels. But let's talk about the week before that then. Right? So the week before that, we met with Liz Fong Jones from Honeycomb, and she talked about benchmarking and migration to ARM-based servers. It was pretty cool because we got to talk about their experience with Honeycomb, migrating all of their stuff. I think now at this point, they run about 95% of their workloads on ARM-based instances and AWS. It's the Graviton chipset series, right? Very cool. I'm not going to talk about everything. Liz covered it very nicely in that episode. So if you have an extra hour in your day, cruise on over to the ARM Software Developers YouTube channel, and you can have a chance to watch that over there. Now, as a reminder, if you have any questions throughout this episode, we are joined by one of the best. Gian Marco will be here answering questions. Go ahead and post those in the comment section or in the chat on YouTube, and we will be monitoring that. We'll bring those questions to Gian Marco. I'm going to fix this camera here just a little bit. It's usually down here. That being said, you may notice a big mess behind me. That's because I only just got back from the conference yesterday, the day before yesterday. And that being said, I have not had a chance to clean up or tidy things too much here lately. Now, let's welcome on our guest. I think it's time to get this started. We have Gian Marco waiting in the green room. Let's bring him up here, show him off. All right, there he is. Gian Marco, welcome to the call. How are you today?
Very good with my espresso cup.
Oh,
so
hey.
Cheers, I would say, right?
We're just giants with big cups of coffee. That's what it is.
I'm pretty sure I'm not gonna sleep tonight.
What time? Where are you based out of, actually? What time is it over there?
In the UK. So
in the UK.
In the UK. So usually I don't take espresso at this time because it means I'm not going to sleep. But this is just an exception because I'm super excited to be here, honestly. So thanks a lot, Robert.
No, of course. No, thank you. Thank you. And we're going to get to know you in just a second. I just want to add one more thing. I remember when I was really young, I say really young, like 10, 15 years ago, my 20s, and I was in school and I would go have like espresso or a big old cup of coffee at 10 p.m. And older people, they would tell me, they'd be like, older people like in their 30s and 40s, they'd be like, enjoy that now because eventually you're not going to be able to have coffee later in the day or it's going to keep you up all night. I'm like, nah. I'm going to be able to have coffee all day, every day, whenever I want. And it's not going to keep me up. Telling my younger self, that wasn't true. You definitely don't get to live forever drinking coffee all hours of the day and not pay some sort of consequence. So I feel you. So Gian Marco, welcome to the show. As we like to do at the beginning here is to get to know you a little bit. So maybe you can spend a minute or two telling us a little bit about yourself, what you do at ARM, maybe a little bit about yourself, what you do on the side. If you have any personal fun stories to share, the floor is yours. We want to get to know you a little bit.
Absolutely. So, okay. So welcome everyone, first of all. And so I'm Gian Marco Iodice, and I'm the tech lead for the ARM Compute Library at ARM. So the ARM Compute Library is a software library for machine learning, which contains optimized routines for Cortex-A CPUs and Mali GPUs. And my role at ARM is to look after the performance optimizations at the moment on Mali GPUs, but in the past also on Cortex-A CPUs and Cortex-M microcontrollers. So I have been lucky enough, I would say, at time in these 8 years at time, because I have been working on ML since the beginning of my career. I still remember the first days at time where we were playing on porting some models on smartphones. I'm talking about 8 years ago. We're playing with AlexNet at that time. And the problem was the same. Oh, we need to make it faster. We need to deploy this model on a smartphone. And at the time, well, we had TensorFlow, but we still didn't have TensorFlow Lite, for instance. That it was a game changing, definitely after that. And behind my background, behind the people I met during these years, I also got the inspiration to write tinyML Cookbook. And probably I can talk more about that later. What do I do in my free time? I'm still a developer, so I like to experiment. I still have my Arduino Nano here with me, and I usually do some tinyML stuff on it. I really enjoy it to be a developer for microcontrollers.
Very cool. Very cool. I think that sums it up. That's a perfect introduction, and you hit the time on the dot. So, yeah, perfect. I was gonna do a what's on your desk segment. I don't know. Is it you showed the Arduino, but do you have anything other interesting? Should we do it? Let's.
What do I have on my desk? As I said, the Arduino.
Let's cue this up. We got to cue. Okay, there we go. We did it. Okay, Gian Marco, that's the cue. What's on your desk?
I have my Arduino Nano 33 BLE Sense board, which is basically one of the board used also in the tinyML Cookbook. I have my espresso cup. Is my best friend, I would say, from the morning to the afternoon. Without these, I cannot program, trust me. I have my smartphone, so not really exciting things here. What else do I have? Nothing else. My desk is not that big, so I cannot have a lot of stuff, because otherwise I do not have space for my laptop. These are the items I have here.
It's okay. A question came in from the audience. They're wondering if you can play something on the piano.
Play something on the piano? No, I cannot. I was a DJ anyway.
But with that nice piano behind you.
Yes, yeah. I also have very nice house, right? Thanks to the virtual background. But I'm not able to play piano, but I was a DJ of
That's
80s.
cool.
So yeah.
That's very cool. Yeah, I got to see Deadmau5. I got to see him live. A couple days ago over in Florida. It was pretty nice. Yeah, so very nice. All right, so I think we did the icebreaker. Gian Marco, we got to meet you a little bit. Very nice. Let's move into the main subject, the meat of this conversation today, and that is tinyML and the tinyML Cookbook, the book that you wrote. So I want to talk all about the book that you wrote. We want to talk about the cool stuff that you have in there, all those recipes. But first, for the people out there who are just hearing tinyML for the first time, and I doubt that's many people, could you just kind of give us this overview? What is tinyML? Where did it come from?
Well, absolutely. So, Robert, I have some slides. Can I share the slides with you?
Of course.
I think it makes it easier also the presentation of the book. So
I like that.
So let me share my screen, if it works.
There it is.
Can you see my screen, right?
It's coming in right now. There we go.
That's perfect. So
all right.
Do you still see my screen, right?
Yes. Oh yeah, there it is.
That's perfect. Well, I have some slides which are from one of the previous presentation I delivered, and I can use these ones to explain what tinyML is in a few words, and also talk about a bit more about the book. And I'm glad you asked what tinyML to give this overview, because actually the motivation for writing this book is behind these the definition of tinyML. So here I reported the more or less what you can find on the internet, for instance, about tinyML. What is tinyML? tinyML is a fast-growing field at the intersection of machine learning and embedded system to enable smart applications on extremely low-power devices. There are at least three keywords here: machine learning, embedded system, and low-power devices. Well, these are the three ingredients that are required for tinyML. And in the context of the tinyML cookbook that I'm going to talk a bit more later, are essentially these three. When I refer to machine learning, I refer to deep learning. To embedded devices, I refer to microcontrollers. And to low power, since we are using microcontrollers, we are talking about milliwatt or below, by usually milliwatt power consumption. These are the three ingredients. But actually, there is another word which is underlined here, which is intersection. Why is it intersection? And to explain why it is intersection, probably I can go to my beginning of my career when I started doing machine learning on smartphones, also on edge devices in general. At that time, the problem was mainly, let's make ML faster. So we had machine learning models developed in the cloud, like AlexNet, for instance, or VG16. But the main problem wasn't actually the difficulties in terms of memory. Well, smartphones were already powerful enough to execute these workloads. But the problem was, we need to make it faster to have, uses cases like image classification in real time or a pose estimation on a smartphone device. Here is intersection because ML and the target platform must know each other at best. Well, it's not just a problem of making faster here. It's a problem of making it working as well. So if machine learning doesn't know, or the machine learning model doesn't know the target, the target platform, there is no way to make it working on a microcontroller. On the other side, the microcontrollers need to know the machine learning algorithms involved to evolve the hardware capabilities and make and unlock other use cases on these tiny devices. There is another thing, as I said at the beginning, actually behind this the definition, there is also the motivation about the book, because the motivation is actually here. Growing field. Since when? If it is a growing field, we like to identify when it started tinyML. Well, I don't know exactly when it started tinyML, but if I look at my past, for sure I can say that in 2013, I heard about machine learning on microcontrollers at uni. So I was at university. One of the last exams was about ambient intelligence. And the first slide of that course was this: if words could talk. So we're talking about devices that could interact with the user simply with the voice. And in the course, we also talk about some use cases for gesture recognition, or that nowadays are actually with us with a smartwatch, for instance, right? But
Gian Marco, could I just interrupt real quick on one thing here? So I'm trying to tinyML, right? I mean,
yeah,
you could take some bigger ML libraries, some bigger ML pieces, and put those on some less resource constrained platforms. So
correct.
in I guess in short, what I'm kind of trying to get at here is tinyML created out of the necessity to run ML algorithms on resource constrained devices, these embedded devices, smaller microcontrollers, or does it go beyond that? I mean, I know you did mention a few other things, but I mean, ideally, right, like you have these microcontrollers, they're not stacked with RAM, they're not stacked with storage, they're not stacked with all these other components that you might get on some beefy developer platform. So was that kind of out of one of the necessities?
Well, I think the keyword power consumption tells everything. I mean,
Okay.
in order to have reduced power consumption or limited power consumption, it means we need to sacrifice something on the device, right? So, and these tiny devices have limited computation capabilities, and as you correctly said, also limited memory, onboard memory. So we're talking about devices where you probably don't have a floating point acceleration, just to name a few. and you also have probably a megabyte or a few kilobytes of RAM. So tinyML wants to make machine learning running on these tiny devices to unlock, I don't know how many use cases, honestly.
Millions. And then I shot JR here is saying also plus privacy, plus response time at the edge, right? So I mean, we're talking about those things as well. Cool. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
No, absolutely. You have to interrupt me. I mean, if you have any questions, because of course I'm talking about these slides, but I mean, let's keep it natural. I mean, if you have any questions. So this is the slide where I basically heard for the first time tinyML. And the course was about machine learning, sensors, low power communication protocols, microcontrollers, but it wasn't the era of tinyML yet. So here, as I highlighted, so it wasn't the era of tinyML. So the question is, why it wasn't tinyML if we were talking about machine learning or microcontrollers? Well, a lot changed since then. So everything changed in the machine learning world. Another thing changed in the embedded world, because in the machine learning world, we have more sophisticated neural networks architectures. We have free, open source, and I mean, brilliant machine learning frameworks to develop these powerful models. But also, we have end-to-end tools that can make machine learning design straightforward. In the book, for instance, I use Edge Impulse. This is one of the tools I use in the book, which makes machine learning development extremely easy if you are not an expert. Therefore, as I said, as I've written at the bottom of this slide, machine learning now is no longer just for experts, because these tools can also teach you how to design ML models. On the other hand, something changed as well. I remember how difficult it was programming a microcontroller. I remember I was programming assembly at the time, and also most of the time, the code that I wrote on a microcontroller couldn't run on other microcontrollers. So it wasn't that easy, the programming experience. Now, well, completely different. For instance, there are IDEs which are web based, which offers a plug and play experience. So you just need to take for instance, your Arduino Nano, connect to the laptop, programming in the web browser. That's it. And the code that you write, well, most of the time you can port the code from one platform to another, which is honestly the thing I really like. I don't like to write the same thing for n different platforms. It's really, really painful at the end. And also, well, look at also on how many sensors we have around us. Now there are local sensors, microcontroller boards to experiment with, and this is something I really like it. As I said, I have just the Arduino with me, but actually in the garage I have, I don't know how many sensors and other microcontroller boards to experiment with. Rob, of course, you can stop me, or I can give the motivation about the book. Do you have any questions, Rob?
So this is great. I appreciate this. Yeah, I would actually like to talk about the book now. So let's start off from the beginning. What was the motivation? Why did you write this? How long did it take you to write it? And then, of course, let's talk about the contents if you can.
Yeah, absolutely. So here is the motivation. I talk about the changes, and the motivation about the book is this. So personally, I wanted to demonstrate how easy tinyML is for everyone now, even for those with no little familiarity with embedded programming. So that is the main reason, and inspired by the changes and the brilliant people that transform this word and made tinyML. The book, that from this motivation, we probably can also understand what is the target audience, or what are the target audience, which are machine learning developers or engineers interested in developing these smart applications through machine learning on microcontrollers, but in a practical way. It's not a theoretical book. This is a book where you learn by doing something. Of course, if you are an embedded developer, you can benefit from the book, but you just need a bit of machine learning background because there are some assumptions, for instance, on some terminologies which are used. So if you don't have a minimum background of machine learning, probably it could be difficult to follow. What I wanted to say is this book is actually, so I want to thank also Pete and Dan for the brilliant book and first book on tinyML, because honestly, I was inspired by their work. They did an amazing job with their book. And my intent was to provide a book complementary to that one, in order to help also people with less programming embedded programming experience to enter the world of tinyML.
Yeah, I want to just if I could add here real quick, Dan Sitiyake, right? That's who you're talking about. I hope I'm saying his last name right. Yeah, and he's one of our ARM innovators as well, and he also, I believe, works at our Edge Impulse, right? So we've talked to him, I think, on the show a while ago. Maybe we'll pull that episode up with Dan, and we'll share that in the description of this video. So, you know, Gian Marco mentions Dan and his book. We actually talked to Dan about his book in a previous Innovation Coffee episode. So check the description if you're watching this later on demand, and we'll have that video up as well. Sorry, keep going. This is great.
No, you had to. Thanks. So I'm going to talk about the book structure. So the book structure, the book is a learning journey, a journey made of 8 chapters with each chapter is a little more challenging than the last. The first chapter is actually different from the others because it's a theoretical chapter and is structured in a way that mainly for people with no embedded programming experience. Well, what is the big problem when you don't have embedded programming experience? Well, probably or you find a book to learn all the skills for developing from microcontroller-based applications, but sometimes you are overwhelmed by terminologies, concepts that maybe are not necessary for tinyML. So the intent of the first chapter is to present the key concepts necessary for tinyML. This is not everything for embedded programming, but hopefully just the key aspects required for understanding the book and also entering the tinyML world. The second chapter is actually a chapter for people with no embedded programming experience, because is a chapter talking about how to program microcontrollers, how to build electronic circuits, because tinyML is not just about machine learning. tinyML is also about developing a platform with sensors and other things. So, and the goal of the second chapter is actually this: so learning how to connect sensors with the boards, how to, for instance, turn on an LEDs, and why do we need this chapter? So the reason I chose this chapter is very simple. Well, if we develop a machine learning model in the cloud or on a desktop, you usually use a keyboard and a monitor. Well, on microcontrollers, you don't have a keyboard, you don't have a monitor most of the time, I would say. So the LED is the most common element or that you can use to interact with the device. And that is the reason I decided, okay, let's bring this chapter to make some practicing and discover how to do things.
So Gian Marco, I gotta kind of talk about this a little bit, right? Because one of my first introductions to microcontrollers was with the Arduino, right? And you're talking about having this Arduino. Mine was with the Arduino Uno. And I remember this very specifically because I went on to Amazon and I was looking for books to buy to learn about the Arduino. And I found a little kit. And so now I'm listening to you talk about how when you get to some of these projects, you may need cables or some wiring, some LEDs, maybe some resistors to pair with those LEDs. And when I experienced this Arduino, it was almost like a cookbook as well. It had a bunch of projects. You learned some of the concepts about the Arduino and the hardware, but it came in this little kit with LEDs and all the little things I need, the little components or the projects. I'm looking at your book. Do you plan on possibly releasing a kit like this? Because I think that would be really cool, where you have the book with all these little components.
I love to have it. Not in this book, not in this release.
Yeah.
However, there is a shopping list in every chapter and on GitHub as well.
That's nice.
So yeah, I like to have a kit. Honestly, that would be very, very cool. That wasn't possible for this release of the book. However, the readers will always know what is needed and where to buy these components on the internet, reading the shopping list provided.
So maybe like a helpful tip here would be for all the readers out there who have this book, just go to the next chapter and then look at the shopping list, order that shopping list while you're on the previous chapter, so that by the time you get to that chapter, all the stuff shows up.
Okay, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, why not?
So yes, and what can I say about? Oh yes, I forgot to say. I mentioned just chapter 1 and chapter 2, but what about the other chapters? Are all tinyML projects. So all the chapters are the orange ones are tinyML projects, which are involving different sensors and different platforms, and I'm going to show in a bit. So for instance, in the third chapter, you use a temperature humidity sensor. In the fourth, your microphone. In the fifth, a camera model. In the sixth, an accelerometer. The seventh and eighth, well, the seventh is going to be a chapter to learn what are the good practices to develop a tiny machine learning model for microcontrollers. And the eighth is the future, what is happening, micro MPUs for microcontrollers. So here I introduced the micro MPU designed by ARM to basically explain what the direction of tinyML is right now. Any questions, Rob, or from the audience or from you?
Not yet, but I mean, so like I'm poking through your book right now as you talk, and I'm very excited. This looks like some really good stuff in here. I mean, there are tons and tons of projects that cover a whole bunch of different topics. I mean, it's so just to let you all know, while I'm poking through this, it's not that every single one of these 3, 4, 5 through 8, like this isn't one project. There are a bunch of projects inside each of these chapters, and this is really cool. So no questions yet. Please, let's keep digging in here. This is great.
That's cool. Well, actually, I have one slide dedicated to what you just said.
Oh, okay. Sorry.
That's interesting because we didn't prepare anything before this presentation, so that's perfect. I'm glad you said that. So yes, the orange chapters are projects, are tinyML projects, which are collection of recipes. And each recipe will describe how to build or program something for your tinyML project. So the projects that I mentioned earlier have been chosen in particular to avoid the repetition of the same recipe. So the recipes are unique in order to avoid this repetition and learn more things at the same time. But the recipes have been chosen, and the project as well, to deal with different aspects of the tinyML development. As I said, tinyML is not just about machine learning, it's not just about embedded programming, are both. And the book will help you to, for instance, explain how to train a model, create a multi-threading programming for microcontroller, building an electronic circuit, and so on. There are different things you're gonna learn with these projects. Probably I can go through the recipe structure. As I said, you have a project, and each project is made of different recipes inside, and each recipe will have the same structure will have the same structure yes. Each recipe has an introduction to the problem. So the introduction will tell you what you're gonna build or program. In the getting ready section, you're gonna learn a bit more of what you're gonna do in order to be prepared for the practical part. For instance, if you need to build a multi-thread program for microcontroller, the getting ready section will explain what you need, what it means on a microcontroller, writing and multi-threading programming. On the how to do it section, you have a step-by-step explanation on how to implement the thing. And there is an optional section, which is that there is more, which is about learning more about the recipe you have just developed or implemented.
Cool. Yeah, so real quick on that note, one of our viewers here, the progression from simple to advanced is really good. And he actually has the book. I have the book, by the way. Okay. But yeah, he's also talking about how he was also reiterating on how there's a list of what you need on each project. So cool. Yeah.
Thanks a lot. So about the development platforms, because I talk about the tinyML cookbook I mentioned, well, definitely you need microcontroller boards. In the book, I use mainly two microcontroller boards, physically two microcontroller boards, for showing two different development scenarios. And these two boards are Arduino Nano 33 BLE Sense, which is with me right now, and the Raspberry Pi Pico. What are these different development scenarios? The Arduino Nano is a complete board for tinyML. Probably you have everything with this board, all the sensors that you need. As you can see here, you have a sensor for the temperature, humidity, pressure, motion, microphone. You don't have just a camera module attached. On the other hand, you have a microcontroller board with anything. Well, these two boards are perfect for showing these two development scenarios, because you're gonna develop the project, in one case, probably without building any circuit with Arduino Nano. On the other hand, with the Raspberry Pi Pico, you will build an electronic circuit, and you're gonna connect your sensor to this board, and you're gonna learn how to do it. So these will be your friends during in the tinyML cookbook. I said mainly because at the end of the book, you will not use microcontroller boards, these physical microcontroller boards, but you use virtual ones that will help you to learn how to, for instance, test without a physical device, and also test the micro MPU that will land in a microcontroller soon. In terms of, yeah, Rob?
No, I said I like that. That's really cool. I mean, testing virtual hardware. I'm curious, actually, where are you doing this virtual hardware testing? Like, what's the...
Yes, one is with QEMU with ZephyrOS. Okay. In particular, the reader will use a virtual platform based on Cortex M3 with very limited computation capabilities and limited memory for the RAM, 64 kilobytes of RAM, so very tiny. And that board will be used to show how to develop a tiny CIFAR10 model. It's gonna be is one of the chapters I really enjoyed writing, honestly.
Nice.
The last one is based on the Corestone 300 for using the micro MPU, the Ethos U55, developed by R.
Gotcha. Cool.
So in terms of software tools, well, this is a snapshot, because tinyML, as also mentioned by Pete done in their book, is under heavy development. Everything's changing, is growing. And this is just a snapshot of the present software tools available in the tinyML ecosystem. So there are in this book diverse software tools to cover both the machine learning development and embedded programming. But thanks to Arduino, Edge Impulse, and Google, most of these tools will be web cloud-based or browser-based with a free plan for our usage. So you will not need to install anything. You will just need to sign up and use the tool in the web browser. It's going to be really, really simple to use, which means less hassle to step up our tinyML applications. So we just enjoy the programming without caring about the prerequisite for installing these tools. And about the community and the source code is available on GitHub. and each chapter will have a link for the GitHub to the GitHub repository or folder. The code is under MIT license, so definitely you can copy and paste your code. So it's a permissive license. And in terms of community, we have a community on Discord. Please join us. Is an opportunity to share your ideas and also for me to learn from you. Because, I mean, I've wrote this book, but I really hope to see something that you're gonna do, or in a tinyML space. Using the recipes using the book. I saw quite recently a project based on the weather station, based on what presented in chapter 3. And it was great. I mean, seeing how people are changing the recipes or extending the use cases. So this is a good place because I like to keep track of the changes, to give credit also to these people, honestly, that are doing great things in the tinyML space.
Cool. I just joined the Discord.
Nice.
ARM has a Discord too, right? We have our own Discord server, the ARM software developers. I don't know if you're in there yet too.
I will join that. I'm not there.
Yeah. No, but what we could do is we could get you into the ARM Discord, and then we could put a channel in there for you to forward people over to your Discord server if you want. So you could have a little tinyML cookbook channel if you want.
It would be fantastic.
Yeah.
Really.
Cool. So, sorry,
yeah.
please.
No. Go ahead. Any
no,
questions?
No questions. No questions. I'm listening. This is awesome. I mean, it's one of the perks of hosting this show. I get to learn so much stuff. So now you're right to the point. What do I get to learn here?
Okay. So in terms of what you will learn with a book, well, for sure hopefully, not for sure, hopefully you will learn relevant microcontroller programming basics for tinyML. As I said, if you don't have an embedded programming experience, with this book, you will learn the basic stuff that you need to know for being a tinyML developer. The second thing is, well, with the book, you will use real-world sensors such as a camera model, a microphone, an accelerometer to build real projects. For instance, with a microphone, you will build a keyword spotting applications to recognize 6 different keywords. With a camera model, you will learn how to do how to recognize indoor environment, and so on. You will learn for sure how to run machine learning on microcontrollers. This is the topic of the book. We want to run ML on microcontrollers. Well, as I mentioned earlier, you will implement an application that responds to human voice or gestures. This is something I implemented with Edge Impulse. And this is a use case that could find space also in toys, for instance, because you don't need internet connection, and so you basically have a privacy by nature by building this kind of applications. You will leverage, transfer learning to classify indoor rooms. And in this chapter, what I really enjoyed was to explain, well, when we think about tinyML, we think about machine learning, we think about microcontrollers, so the programming aspect. Well, it's not everything, because when you have a camera with let's say a specific resolution and a color format, but most of the time your model will not accept that resolution and that color format, because maybe accepts a quantized and normalized values. So here in this chapter, you will learn how to scale the camera frame from the camera to the model in let's say in the most memory efficient way. Remember that we have microcontrollers, so devices with limited memory onboard memory. So, and this chapter, which is chapter 5, you will learn how to do this thing in, let's say, using a few kilobytes of memory. So using a fusion technique where, in short, you fuse the scaling, the color transformation, the cropping, the quantization, and the normalization. So different operations altogether. And you will learn how to design a cifr10 model for microcontrollers with just 64 kilobytes of RAM. Before I mentioned the virtual platform, this is in this case it will be used to show how to develop this cifr10 model to fit in this big constraint, because you have just 64 kilobytes of RAM and we need to recognize 10 different images with 32 by 32 image resolution. And in the end, in the last chapter, you will learn how to run an image classifier on a virtual ARM Ethos U55 micro NPU through MicroTVM. This is the other software tool or framework that you will use at the end, a deep learning technology that will transform your TensorFlow Lite model to SC code, and you will learn how to integrate in your application and run it on the ARM Ethos U55. Any questions?
I mean, this is great. I don't have any questions per se. There hasn't been anything coming in from the audience, but I think that you kind of cover all of this. Like, so me personally, right? Like, I've never done anything with tinyML yet. And looking at this list of the things I can learn, the process for which you go through from kind of beginner, covering the principles, and then all the way down into actually executing projects, I think this is the perfect model, right? Like, this is the kind of stuff that people need. I refer to this kind of thing. I think I coined it. I call it developer relativity, right? So, you know, where the experiments they used to do on a train cart, right? There's a train cart and you put a radio in the middle of the train cart, and then the cart starts moving fast, and then they emit a sound out of that radio. The spectator outside of the train cart never sees that sound hit the front of the train cart, whereas the people on the train cart will see that sound hit the front. I look at this kind of as that bridge when a developer is watching the train go by so fast. You have things like the Linux kernel, tinyML. These are all projects that are advancing at incredible speeds. And then there are developers that are outside watching this train just go by, and they're like, wow, tinyML, that looks so cool. I wish I could do stuff with tinyML. How do they get on the train? How do they get involved in tinyML? And you've kind of created that bridge, right? Like, you've created the bridge for developers watching these really cool things that are happening, tinyML, Linux kernel, all these cool projects that are just moving by so fast. How do I get on that train and start developing and being a part of this ecosystem? And here comes Gian Marco giving us the tinyML cookbook, and we can now be a part of this amazing kind of project. And so, you know, I kudos. I think this is really cool. We need more books like this, bringing people up to speed and catching them up to what the more advanced developers are up to now. So I think that's really cool.
Thanks.
We do have a comment here. So I shot JR saying this isn't a question, but he just wanted to put another testimonial for the book. So I'm thinking he likes the book a lot, right? He's commenting in a positive way, so he's enjoyed it.
Okay, nice. It's great to hear, but I need to be honest. If tinyML is like this right now, it's because of the brilliant people that are in the tinyML space. There are interesting and really useful software tools that make tinyML accessible to everyone. So the book basically describes how to use it, explain how to access this word, but definitely we need to thank the brilliant people behind tinyML, which are making great things for good, definitely.
Yes, and cheers. As Isaac Newton said, I would not have seen further without standing on the shoulders of giants. And so that's us standing on the shoulders. So Gian Marco, you did tell me in the green room before we started that you might be able to show us some parts of your book and maybe walk us through some of the source code. I know you shared the links there. And you are able to access like some teasers on Amazon, and we'll share the link to the book in just a moment. But could you maybe share some cool, like show us some of what the projects look like?
Okay, yes. Let me open the book. I already have chapter 4 open, which is voice controlling LEDs with edge input. This is a keyword spotting application. This is a chapter 4. You will use a microphone to recognize 6 different keywords. You will recognize red, green, and blue words, and you also recognize 1, 2, 3 words. As I said, this could be an application for a toy where it doesn't need to be connected to internet for doing keyword spotting, which means privacy by nature, because basically you don't have internet, you don't have to transfer anything to the cloud. And how so the chapter is structured in this way. So you have an introduction to the problem, what is keyword spotting, what you're gonna do in this chapter for implementing was mentioned in the title, and what you're gonna learn. So at the end of each introduction, you will have a section dedicated on what you will learn at the end of the chapter. So in this case, the chapter is intended to show how to use Edge Impulse to develop a keyword spotting application. And also you get familiar with the audio data acquisition, and you will learn in this case how to use the analog to digital converter peripheral, because you will need to sample data from the microphone and generate an audio sample. At the beginning of the chapter, you have the list of all the recipes. As I said, the project is made of different recipes. These are all the recipes included in this chapter. So they're different, definitely. In this case, I believe are 9, if I recall correctly, different recipes. Technical requirements, as I mentioned, you have a shopping list listed at the beginning of the chapter, but also on GitHub. On GitHub, you can also find a link on, for instance, on Amazon or another retailer to buy what is needed to complete this project. As mentioned by Rob, yes, you would need resistors, and here is listed everything. You are listed the resistors, the kind of LEDs, the extra component like a push button, and so on. And there is a link to GitHub. In this case, it's chapter number 4. If you click on that, you jump straight to the chapter 4 folder, where you have the Arduino sketches and the Python scripts. So as you can imagine, the Arduino sketches has the programming for the Arduino, one for the Arduino Nano BLE Sense board, and the other one for Raspberry Pi Pico. In the case of the Python script, well, this is a debugging Python script required for chapter 4 for the end of the project. In short, for understanding or checking why, for instance, your application doesn't work. And so you can use this Python script to learn more about it. Let me just jump to the first recipe, because the structure, as I said, is the same for everyone. So title of the recipe, you will have a short introduction to the recipe or what you're gonna do and learn. In the getting ready section, for instance, in this case, you're gonna acquire audio data with a smartphone to build your data set. In the getting ready, you will learn about, a bit more about how to acquire this audio data, how many samples you need to build your data set for this kind of application. You will learn some techniques, for instance, in short, on how to do it. And after that, you jump to the how to do it section. And as I said earlier, this is a step-by-step how to do it. So step number 1, it says what to do with some images, with a brief description, and so on. So, and this is in short following the steps that you can find in the how to do it section. You're gonna complete the recipe, and after the end of the recipe, of course, you jump to the next one to continue the project development.
Very nice. So a question did come in here, and this is from iShotJR once again. He's asking, what was it like working with Pact Publishing? This may be a little off the topic, but are you able to answer this question? If not, no problem. But
no, I can definitely. I mean, it was definitely good because they believe in this project for the very beginning. So and I need to thank them because they helped me a lot. For me, it is the first experience, definitely. So this is my first ever book. I really received a lot of support. When I showed the idea, they were super happy. They gave me the support of the team. So definitely it is actually a positive experience because I'm still working with them.
That's great. That's good to hear. It's nice to hear these stories when a publisher actually is okay with the stuff that you're making, right? I mean, especially when it comes into the tech space and building these types of things. So yes, awesome.
I can say that, as I said, that is my first experience. I mean, in terms of writing the book. And the first three chapters were really challenging for me because, well, you need to understand how to shape the story or how to structure these chapters. And I had a big support from them in terms of how I could structure the chapters in order to do what I had in mind. Because sometimes you had in mind a good idea, but you don't know how to do it. So they helped me a lot with that.
Of course, of course. Cool. So that's great. We got to go through the book a little bit. We got to see chapter 4, and then I really like how the order you cover things, right? And I was trying to read it as fast as possible as you were scrolling through. But the first step for any ML project is getting the data, right? And so you start that off right from the get-go. It's like we have to find out how we're going to collect this data. And then you go on step 2, step 3, step 4. So that's really cool. That being said, was there anything else you wanted to cover here? Because we are getting to the top of the hour. We have like 6 to 8 more minutes left. So is there anything else you wanted to cover before we close this out?
No, I think it's everything on my side. So probably I can stop sharing.
Excellent. Okay. So let's give your shameless plug. So this is your opportunity to send anyone watching to a particular place on the internet that you want them to go to, and I'm guessing it's going to be the site where your book is.
Yes. So definitely for writing this book, Rob, I need to thank a lot of people. So well, definitely ARM, Arduino, Raspberry Pi, Edge Impulse, Pact. So quite a lot of people, but and also well, the support given by them, it was brilliant because this book is because of them, actually.
Excellent. All right. And thank you so much, Gian Marco, for joining us and sharing all of that. Of course, this link right here will take you to Gian Marco's book, the tinyML Cookbook, and we will be putting that in the description as well. So it might not be as easy to click that here, but you can copy paste it from the chat and go over and check it out. But in the description after the episode goes on demand, you will be able to click that link and go check out the book. Very cool. You can get it on the Kindle or the PDF version, I think it is, or you can also get it in a paperback version delivered right to your door. Looks like they have it available for pretty much all around the world.
Yeah. And I want just to add one thing. I mean, in terms of social media, I use just LinkedIn at the moment, a bit Twitter. But if people follows me on LinkedIn, at least they are aware of the sessions we are delivering in this period, where they probably also take a free copy of the book, because in some of these events we also give some free copies.
Very cool.
Yeah,
and I was also checking out on your Discord. You also have events listed on your Discord. You have an online conference for embedded systems engineers coming up on April 24th. You have a tinyML and Azure IoT with Edge Impulse on YO Terminal. So there's a lot of cool stuff happening in your Discord as well. So definitely worth checking that out. At any rate, Gian Marco, true pleasure having you here. Author of tinyML Cookbook, and you can go check that out on Amazon. The link is shared there. Gian Marco, last words. We're going to close this out.
Last words. I don't know what I can say. No, I'm kidding. No, as I said, thanks a lot to these brilliant people behind tinyML. That is my big, my last word. I mean, is because of them if there is tinyML.
Excellent. All right. So we'll close that out then. Thank you, everyone, for watching. Gian Marco, thank you for being here. We know an hour is worth so much of your time, and we really appreciate you spending it with us. That being said, next week, a surprise episode. So keep your eyes on the ARM Software Developer Discord server. We'll update that events section over there. Keep an eye on the ARM Software Developer Twitter. There you can also find out what's happening in the next episode, as well as if you did enjoy this episode, make sure you smash that like button, follow us, subscribe to us on ARM Software Developers here on YouTube. We do release a new video pretty much every day. I feel like there's new videos coming out all the time here, and we do go live for the Innovation Coffee live stream every Thursday at 5 p.m. UTC, unchanging. Everyone, hope you have a wonderful week, a wonderful weekend. It is a holiday weekend, so make sure you stay safe, enjoy your family, enjoy your friends, and we'll see you next week for Innovation Coffee. Y'all take care. Gian Marco, have a wonderful week, wonderful weekend. Take care.
Yeah, you too. Thanks a lot for the opportunity. It was really a pleasure.
Excellent. Bye.
Bye-bye.